Angry Andy Reviews.
Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews. Angry Andy Reviews. Angry Andy Reviews. Angry Andy Reviews.
Don't make me destroy you.
Hello and welcome to Angry Andy Reviews, and this is Sharing the Silver Screen with my good friend Mr. Spider-Dan of Spider-Dan the Secret Boars podcast. And we are here, we're talking about the 1964 British war movie Zulu. Now, it's been a couple of months since we last did one of these. Things happened. It was Christmas, It was New Year, several illnesses, and God knows what else as well. So, yeah, we just haven't had time to get into doing one of these, have we, since?
No. We did plan to do it a couple of weeks ago, but I got horrifically ill, and I've only just kind of recovered from the cough.
Yeah.
The cough has stuck around. We were watching the Royal Rumble together, and I was still coughing my guts up then. And only in the last few days, I think, have I fully recovered, and we're talking like 3, maybe 4 weeks now, really, maybe more. Where I feel like I can actually podcast again, really, without going, So no, I've been waiting for this one, and I was ready for it. I know your taste in films like this, so I was looking forward to Zulu. I've heard a lot of good things. Heard a lot of kind of controversial things as well, and people's opinion on this, and the revisionist history and stuff. But I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm really interested to discuss this further.
Yeah. What was the last one we did? I can't remember.
So
we did Bell and the Moon, didn't we? And then we went to yours, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we were going to do something for over on my channel for Christmas, but you couldn't make it, so I did Less Than Zero with Tony. And that feels like a million months ago as well, doesn't it? So there was that. But yeah, I feel like, what was it? I'm blanking now. But we've done Gladiator, Frankenhooker. Tokyo Gore Police.
No, in Origin, was that it? That was the last one.
Oh, might be.
Yeah,
could because
I had my own rodent problem as it is.
Absolutely,
everything's coming back to haunt me.
It's all coming back.
Yeah.
Andy, I can't believe we forgot. It was Turkish Star Wars.
Oh God, of course it was.
We did a live stream. We did a live stream of Turkish Star Wars.
That's why I forgot, because it was.
You wanted to erase it. You wanted to erase it from your memory. Do you not remember that kid? That kid who got his head crushed by that giant robot to death.
I'm pretty sure that's why I've been horribly ill ever since. Because that film, my immune system just deteriorated because of it.
Turkish flu you got.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Paul and Matt joined us for that live, and
they did.
That was great fun.
God bless them.
Of course, it was Turkish Star Wars. I can't believe even I'm that ill. I forgot. My brain's completely wiped. But no, that was the very last one. So we kind of did a little bit of an experiment with that one. Might do maybe a live stream again, maybe at some point in the future. But
it was good fun.
It was good fun, but I think it has to be a particularly bad movie for us to do a live stream.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it definitely has to be, doesn't it? We couldn't do something like this on a live stream.
No. Oh, absolutely. Well, 2+ hours. Exactly, and that as well. Yeah, I think it has to be like something we can get away with copyright-wise, and something that's fun to watch together, and just bad, and we can kind of talk over it and riff and what have you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that was our last one. We had a good year though. I think we had a good run. We did pretty well and got quite a few out, and a good variety of films as well.
Yes, and hopefully we will continue with that going forward this year. Obviously it's February already, so there's quite a few films coming out this year, and there's going to be a few things that we miss either one or the other. So who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see what happens. But
we're all very busy all of the time. So again, these will come out when they come out. And,
exactly.
And they'll be good, and they'll be great. But yeah, we don't know when the next one will be, but we'll try our best to do it as often as possible.
Absolutely. But Zulu, like I said, 1964, stars Michael Caine, amongst some other brilliant actors, and it's basically a film depicting the 1879 Battle of Rorke's Drift, where a detachment of British Army soldiers faced off against thousands of Zulu warriors, and the British were kind of just stuck in a defensive position, unable to go anywhere, whether that's by their own choice or whether by design. And yeah, the film just basically plays out with them having to defend this position, and going through a myriad of trials and tribulations of, what that means for them and what it means for the Zulu warriors as well. And like you said, it should be quite obvious. I think it's, like I said, it's set in 1879, so it's at the height of the British Empire as it is, coming towards the end of the British Empire, and their control of colonies, African colonies, Indian colonies, all of these, and I think you get a sense of some of that within this film. Not too much, which I think is probably one of the big criticisms to have towards the film. I think so it doesn't really focus on the oppression side of the British Empire against the colonies and these people. But then the other end of the spectrum, there is a lot of respect put towards the Zulu warriors. We have it in the film. They're not just painted as as people, mercilessly killing other people. There is some very good moments of respect. I think the film is shot in a way that tries to pay respect to these warriors as well, and we'll get into that because I noticed a few shots today on my rewatch. I've not watched it for a couple of years, but I rewatched it today and noticed a few shots that seemed to be created in a way to show them as being quite strong and formidable, which is what they are. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this one? Because like you said before we started, there are a few things to talk about, aren't there?
Sure. I let Tonya know because this was on my banned movies list. Tonya as a suggestion, and I said, I'm going to have to remove it because I'm doing it with Andy. And she was like, oh, great, two white guys talking about African culture. And I was like, yep, that's us. Here we go again.
It's a fair comment, really.
Yeah, it's a fair comment,
It goes with the film because it's a British war movie.
Of course, yeah.
And there are some elements of glorification in. I think in terms of the way that the characters talk to each other initially, in terms of the hierarchy, the ranking structure and all this, and their attitudes towards Zulu warriors, but then the perceptions change in the film, and we get most of that sense through Michael Caine and his character towards the end of the film. Yeah. And quite pointedly, he says he feels disgusted at the end of the film because the amount of warriors they've killed. Yeah, he feels sick.
Again, that was Tonya. Obviously, there's a fair point. There's a fair point to be made about stuff like that, and white guys talking about black culture and stuff. Like, I totally get it, and there are criticisms that are levied towards this film, absolutely. And I think some of them, if not all of them, can be valid arguments. I've gone deep into kind of reading about this film and the various different, because there's people who. You can find an article on Zulu of someone going, this is revisionist history, this is colonialism, they're painted as these ragtag underdogs when actually they're an invading force. That's
the thing I was alluding to is
exactly.
They're painted as being, like I said, it's the height of the British Empire when it's on the cusp of coming towards its end.
And there was war crimes committed directly after this that were only discovered in 2003, I believe, from what I read on the articles I read. And again, all horrific stuff. And again, there's that that opening battle where Richard Burton's giving the narration and saying how badly they've lost and everything. And you get that, and then I do like this film. I think I'll hold my hands up. I do like it. I think it is good. I think it's shot well. I think that the acting is superb. I think this John Barry's score is brilliant. I think that's one of the big kind of. And again, I think this is just a really strong score anyway. But I think it all works on paper. And I like a good siege movie. You know what I mean? I like a good siege movie. Now, I'm a fan of 300, Zack Snyder's 300,
Yeah.
and that is arguably more racist than this, because all the
Yeah.
Persians are depicted as demonic freaks, basically, or
Yeah.
disabled creatures,
Which is it's horribly inaccurate.
horrifically inaccurate.
Serves a purpose in terms of the comic book ideal.
Yes,
But
but also
in terms of it being historical epic, it couldn't be further from the truth.
no, of course.
and
the argument
with this film, it's the same.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
There's the missions, there's grandiosity put towards certain elements of the characters, the way they were, the way they do battle. But then, like I said, in the same breath, we're treated to a glorious opening once we get past that initial sort of crawl with the telling of how these thousands of these British soldiers who were massacred in this battle. We're treated to quite a lengthy period where we're shown some cultural dance. We're shown
I was going to say that's how that's how the film opens. Now with Frank Miller, I know he's an Islamophobic. I like Frank Miller's work, but he is Islamophobic. You read his stuff after 9/11. It's Islamophobic.
Yeah, I don't think I have read anything.
Yeah, fair enough. Don't bother. So 300 is included in that stuff. I think that might be is bordering on that. But yeah, and the guys who made this film, the director and the writer, were very much leftist leaning, political figures. So much so the director of this was so left leaning and so communist that he was on got kicked out of America. He was on the blacklist, the McCarthy blacklist, because they believed he was a communist, that he had those values, and he couldn't work in Hollywood anymore. So the people that are actively working on this are not somebody who is and again, like, the behind the scenes to me says that they do not intend for this to be a kind of a glorification of war or the British Empire, the imperialism, the colonialism. What all the stuff I've read about the behind the scenes says to me that these guys care, they're respectful, they're honest. They were shooting in South Africa, the height of apartheid, this film. And they were hiring Zulus, they were paying them, but I think they had to pay them in livestock because they couldn't officially pay them under apartheid because that would break the rules.
Yeah.
And they were well respected. They showed them films. They showed them Laurel and Hardy. They showed them Buster Keaton, things like that. Things they would have never seen under apartheid. Things they would never have experienced. They loved them. They were shown westerns because they wanted to get that kind of idea of what they needed to do and what they are. It's very the whole siege thing is a very classic western. Like the Alamo. Or, all those kind of films that they made back in the day. And that this has a sense of that, and I think that's where their kind of cinematic language is for this film. They borrow that from those westerns, classic westerns. But Michael Caine said, he saw a white crew member punch a black extra in the face when he was like, "Oh, you're being lazy" or something, and they stopped it. They fired that guy. They got him off set. Michael Caine said he'll never go back to South Africa until apartheid is over, and he kept his word. And there were various things where they could have just let's be awful, but if this wasn't the case, they didn't hire Zulus, you probably would have seen people in blackface. Let's be honest. In this kind of era, that could have potentially happened. Luckily, they said no. Let's hire the people who did it. Let's have the families of these Zulu warriors who were in this battle. These the chieftain who plays his own great grandfather, who still defends this film as well. He still says, this was a wonderful film. We were respected. We were talked to. We were asked for advice. We taught dances to the white people, and they taught dances to us. There was a camaraderie and an understanding, and they were treated better by this cast and crew than they would have been treated by any of the South Africans the white South Africans they lived with under apartheid. They were given more rights and more freedoms, even in this film, just in this short amount of time, than they probably ever saw at that time in South Africa, which you've got to respect. again, the racism and the stuff within the film, I don't think was intentional from what I can
I think
reading about.
it's part of the language from the
Yeah.
era, because they
Yeah.
didn't. It's the underestimation of people, isn't it? We see it a lot in a lot of war movies.
Yeah.
It's in
Vietnam.
It's in Black Hawk Down. You know, they
Mm.
underestimate. The Somalis in that film. They underestimate how. I mean, obviously, it's a real life event similar to this, but they underestimated the ability of people to rise up in an instant under an oppressive.
Ingenuity.
Yeah, exactly. And the entire city rose up in Black Hawk Down. And again, that film is again, compared to this film, I think Black Hawk Down has been much more a difficult film. But again, it's still one that I enjoy watching. But again, it is a difficult, when you look at certain aspects of it. But I think what you've said there, that's the most important thing, is to actually look at how it's affected the cast in the film, how it's affected, the extras, what they were able to give to the film. And if those people are coming across and saying this was great for us, we didn't feel oppressed, we didn't feel like we were being misused or misrepresented, then isn't that the best takeaway from the film?
Yeah.
Rather than somebody looking at it at the surface and going, "Oh, I don't like it because they're shooting all these people. It's the British Army with guns and rifles, and they're just shooting them." Well, yes, that's what happened in the real situation, but obviously that's had an impact on those people as well, and they want to tell that story as well to show the other side of it. Again, admittedly, we don't get enough of the other side.
No.
But what we do see is mutual respect come towards the end. We see, like I said, we see a lot of culture from them in this film. There's moments when they're chanting, when they're singing, and arguably those are the most interesting moments. The moments when the Zulu warriors come towards the end of the film and they're singing, and all the British soldiers are terrified, and then they match with their own singing, and it's kind of like, it's almost a different kind of battle in a way. And I think with a film like this, there's a lot of things out there, a lot of shows out there that have rewritten history and rewritten the start, saying, this has depictions which are don't match the views of today. That's perfectly fine, but with this film, I don't think you'd ever get that. I don't think I think it was on TV a little while ago. I don't think there's anything like that at the start of the film, because that's not this film's not painting anything in a negative light.
No. And again, like you said, we open with that culture. We open, we see the thing where like, oh, this battle has been lost, and we see like the opening kind of the Zulu warrior kind of holding the gun and the spear and kind of like, and you get the Richard Burton thing going, oh, how terrible is all this? But then we go straight into, again, just like a marriage ritual, a kind of a dance, tribal dance. And then again, you've got the priest or the whatever you want to call him, and his daughter kind of explaining the rituals to each other and kind of communicating what it's about and what it represents and how important it is.
It's exposition for the audience, isn't it? Look,
exactly.
This is the culture. This is the culture.
Like
we're going to show it to you.
They even make a joke about having like multiple wives and stuff. Like, oh, that's not very Christian. It's like, no, but it's their culture, and it's told and shown in a kind of a respectful manner. It's not like, oh, look at these people being different from us and weird and strange.
Yeah, it's completely not. Because I think, like you said, there are articles out there where it's like, well, they just painted them as ruthless savages. Well, no, absolutely not.
Absolutely
because
not.
That's what they say in the film at the start. They're not these kind. They're not savages. They're sophisticated. They have their own ways. They have their own rituals, and they should be respected.
Yeah, and you've got the South African soldier who is explaining how they work, how they operate, what their kind of battle strategy is with the horns and the bull.
Yeah.
Which again is actually from the chieftain's daughter, because she was the kind of translator. She said, "This is how we fight." And she kind of explained kind of how it would work. So she was choreographing the action or helping choreograph the action and making sure it was done realistically. And again, they were there and they were given the opportunity to represent their culture in a non-stereotype way. Again, I'm sure there are people who watch this film and like the idea of a lot of black people dying. I'm sure there is a lot of people out there, unfortunately, that like that idea. But I think ultimately the film is not trying to say that. I think ultimately the film is about two warrior groups that find, by the end, spoilers, mutual respect for each other, despite their differences, despite their, so-called, firepower or weaponry or ingenuity or numbers. There is respect to be found. And again, I think you were talking, you make absolute sense because that's Michael Caine's arc. If any character has an arc, it's Michael Caine because he starts off and he's this snobby, like, oh, hello, dear boy. Oh, I'm going to run this one. And they're like, no, you're not in charge. I'm the engineer. I'm the guy here. I have seniority. Chard, I think it's Broomhead and Chard, is that? Or Bromhead? Bromhead.
Yeah, God.
Yeah.
So many names to remember.
So many names. But yeah, he kind of comes in and is like, oh yeah, and I think he says something like, he uses like a derogatory term for the Zulu warriors. And again, I was like, I'm expected to hear a lot of this, but actually you don't. That was the one time you hear it.
Yeah.
And
then the first initial battle.
Yeah.
The first initial part when the shooting, when there's why aren't they fighting back? He's like, well, they're counting our guns. Yeah. And everyone kind of goes, oh, okay. And then they come back and lay into them, and that's when the sort of the dynamic changes, the perception changes from them just being dirty savages to be, Jesus,
exactly, yeah.
We have to be on it. We have to be aware. We have to use our tactics as best as possible, and they take
on Zulu tactics as well. They use Zulu tactics because they've gone, oh, that was really effective. These guys know how to fight. Yeah. Okay, so now let's try and turn the tables or use what we've learned from them. And again, it's that observation throughout the entire film. There's so many scenes where they're just looking at each other. Yeah. And you have that breathing room between the battles, which I think is really telling. And then you get the Zulus up on the hill with the rifles.
Yeah. Using their rifles against them, which we've seen in countless war movies. We've seen in countless.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's that evolution, isn't it? It's that understanding of each other's tactics and what damage they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Bromhead, he starts off this snobbish, entitled, and again, Chard's talking like you're a son and heir of some rich, pompous prick. You're not a real soldier. You don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, oh, I do know, dear boy, and all this. It's quite.
They're both horribly dishevelled about coming the end of it, aren't they?
Yeah, but again they've got, because they've had this kind of like, who's really in charge? The soldiers are looking to Bromhead, and they're like, no, I'm actually in charge, so don't speak to me, speak to him. Speak to that. And there's this kind of budding kind of rivalry a little bit, and they're kind of jostling for position. But as the eventual battles go on, they soften to each other, and he gets injured. Chard, he's like helping him, and then he falls asleep, and he wakes him up. It's like, "Have you got any water?" He's like, "No, sorry, we've all run out." And then by the end, like you said, they've come all the way around, and Michael Caine's like, "Oh no, not again! They're coming again! Can't do it! I can't do any more of this! This is horrible!" And he goes, no, they're mocking us with this song. They're mocking us. And the South African guy goes, no, this is respect. They're honoring you with their song.
They're saluting you.
They're saluting you because there is mutual respect. And I can understand where some people's criticism may be like, oh, they're just doing a lovely song after they've been massacred. Why would they do that? I can understand the critique there. Yeah. But I get it. But I think ultimately the intention for me from the directors is not to showcase these warriors in a bad light or a subhuman light, let's say, or something. They are not. And again, I can understand. Again, I feel a little bit with with period movies that are set in a period of time, historical movies or what have you, I feel like I give them a bit more slack. And also and obviously I'm aware that it's an older film anyway.
Yeah. It's just 60 years old, isn't
yeah,
it?
60 years old. So like things that have come out last week have aged poorly in a week's time. You know what I mean? I'm sure I've dropped a podcast 2 years ago, or what have you, and it's, I've said and done something.
Yeah, because we all have retrospective thoughts, don't we?
Yeah, of course.
God, I mean,
we all make mistakes.
Yeah, it's not just making mistakes. It's looking back on something and going, "Oh, that's not as good as I remember it being."
Yeah.
But we do it all the time. I do it from films from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I look back on it and go, "Oh, that's not aged well at all." But with something like this, you can't look at it. It's the difficult thing, isn't it? It's the Faulty Towers conundrum.
Right. Yeah.
You've got something there that's that's it's etched in British society, it's etched in British comedy. I love it for the physicality of it, and yet there's this overwhelming sense of it that it's we can't watch it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. I think you need to look at things and go, yeah, okay, well, it's a product of its time. Yeah. So it's not giving it slack. It's saying, okay, well, views, values, opinions, and the way we talk about things were very different back then.
Yeah.
And it's the same with, like you say, with period dramas. And we're not just talking about war movies. We're talking about all manner of period dramas.
Sure.
From the 50s, 60s, even, my gosh, even Gone with the Wind, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we look back on that. Wizard of Oz, we look back on that and go, there's a few things in there which are, a bit questionable, but nobody's going to cancel the Wizard of Oz, are they?
No.
For God's sake.
Not after Wicked. That's
exactly. So, there's the right way and the wrong way to look at things for me.
I think you're right. I think I was mistaken to use the word slack. I think again, appreciate or know or prepare myself to go, these things may not have aged well, but also they are depicting a time that's even less progressive than they're filming in now.
Exactly. And when you take that on board, given it was 1964 and what you've already sort of described as being, the way they treated, the extras and what they gave them and what they received. It was almost unheard of at that time, especially in the time of apartheid.
Yeah, and also that the filmmakers were putting themselves at risk to pay the Zulu warriors to. And again, I'm not saying this film, I'm not saying it's Dan says it's not racist, so it's not racist. No. If you think this film is racist, you are definitely entitled to your opinion, and I understand why you would come to that conclusion. I can see it. But I think knowing the intention, and again, intention doesn't mean a lot because people with good intentions could still do or say something
still make bad mistakes, don't they? Yeah.
But I think the interviews I've read, the stuff that the wife has talked about from the director, the wife of the screenwriter, it's and the Zulu chieftains, the Zulu warriors who were in that film have nothing but good things to say about the experience, about the film, about the people there, about the people they worked with. It was controversial to use at that time in South Africa to use the Zulu warriors, but they got away with it. They managed to give them something. They managed to repay them and entertain them and, give them stuff and give them a sense of again, some form of freedom that they did not have at that time, while also honoring their forefathers in this battle. And again, they say, you lost some. There's a quote somewhere in one of these articles where you lost some and we lost some, because they showed them like the dailies. They were like, do you think this is okay? Are you worried on the way we're going to present you? Because they saw the Westerns and they thought that the Native Americans were portrayed poorly. Yeah. So they recognized that. They're and again, like you said, Andy, fully intelligent, know exactly what they're doing. Some of them may never have seen a film before, but they understood the context, the way it was shot, and the way that the Native American characters were portrayed, that they were like, we don't want to be portrayed in that way. And the director was like, the director, the writer, cinematographer, the editor, all, by the way, doing a stunning work in this film, all stunning work.
Yeah.
Is doing that for that purpose, to give them the opportunity to tell this story in the most legitimate, clear, and concise. And again, I know it's not entirely accurate, it's not entirely true, it's not an accurate representation, but what they do try and represent, about the Zulu warriors and the Zulu culture, I think they were actively trying to do that properly and respectfully, given the time and given the restrictions they had in, again, apartheid, full-on apartheid. It's not like, oh, we're coming out of it or anything. This is like slap dab in the middle of it, and all those restrictions were fully on there. And I'm surprised they got away with whatever they got away with, frankly.
Yeah.
They were very lucky. I mean, I don't think there's many films were going, where we should film? South Africa, definitely. Yeah. I think it was, again, they wanted that legitimacy, that realism, and that accuracy wherever they could find it. And again, like, I'm not a big, I know you're one for you like historical accuracy to a point. I'm kind of loose. I'm loose with it. I don't really, as long as the film's entertaining, it's good, I can kind of forgive things like that. Like,
you've got to have creative license. I mean,
absolutely,
creative license in every war movie, because you can't depict things as accurately as they are. I mean,
you can try.
D-Day landing is as accurate as you're ever going to see in a movie, but again, it's not entirely 100% accurate. But it's enough to give a sense. And I think that's that's the most important thing, is that you get a sense of what it might have been, without altering the history too much. Like you say, with a lot of old westerns do, it's completely, inaccurate. But like you were saying about the cinematography and everything, some of the shots in amongst the myriad of sweeping landscape shots, which are just absolutely perfect. It looks superb.
Really good.
Really give you that sense of atmosphere of them being almost stuck in this this valley as it is. But then you got those wonderful shots with the Zulu warriors where they are literally were below them. The camera's below them. Us as the audience member are looking up at the warriors at all times when they're on the battle line, they're chanting, they're singing. And then when they rush the lines, the camera's always tracking low and looking up.
Yeah,
I think that it gives you that sense that they are an imposing force. They have strength. They have wonder. It's something
it's the awe, isn't it? Like for me, it's like, what's that train? There's a train coming, and it's that thunder.
Many films have
gradual
replicated that since.
Absolutely.
Lord of the Rings, Two Towers had that. After we could hear the orcs coming down the gap towards Helm's Deep at the end, where you can hear them coming from miles away. So all that comes from there. It is literally the imposing sound of an army coming towards you. Beating their own drum, beating their own style. You get a real sense of what they do to rally each other throughout the film. There's different times when they're doing different things, and it's all engaging. It's all engaging, and again, we're in amongst as the audience. We're not apart from it really at any point. We're right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Especially when they approach, when they draw lines, and when they start chanting and singing and dancing to test the guns. We're right in there with them whilst they're doing this. And we're sort of like, why are you guys doing this? What's going on?
Would you have liked to, if let's say, for example, this was remade, right? Would you like them to have done like a Clint Eastwood one where it was like, what was it, Flags of Our Fathers and Letters of Iwo Jima, where it was like the Japanese and the American, the two sides of that? Would you have liked to have seen that, or would you just have maybe the one film where it manages to do like balance both?
I think the balance works better. I think what's intriguing about this film is that we don't really get any sense of I say don't get any sense. We don't get any overburdening of the Zulu warriors or the king lambasting why they're doing certain things. We know immediately why they're doing it. We have the opening crawl which tells us bits and pieces, but because of history, we know what's going on. We know why they're engaging in this battle. We know that
I guess that's why the South African is there to explain everything, isn't he? He's the exposition.
Exactly.
He's the exposition man.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not one for exposition. I can't bloody stand it, but as long as it's done in the right way, which it is in this film, because the British soldiers are as naive to what's going on as we are as the audience. So he's there basically going, look, you don't understand what they're doing right now. You know, you don't understand the situation we're in. Even towards the end, when it's all done, like they're not coming off from war. They're saluting you. You know, like it's the British absence of understanding of the situation throughout, where the audience members along with that as well. Yeah, but I just think the way it's shot is brilliant. I think that's one of the most one of the most impressive things about the film is the way it's shot. And you alluded to it as well. Like it's shot respectfully from both sides. I don't think we needed any more from either side. But I wouldn't like to see any less. And I think if you remake this, you potentially dilute some of that.
Yeah, I don't think they would
burden it. Yeah. I don't think they will either.
I think it's either they'll either see it's too problematic, I think, or that they don't want to tarnish the legacy of this particular film.
And we got treated to Zulu Dawn, which wasn't very good.
No. Yes, I heard some good things about it, but again,
it's okay. But again, it's not. It's one of those films where you're like, well, the message is clear, the success, the victory, and the losses are clear from both sides. We don't need to see any more.
Okay,
like you say, the what happens in real terms after this, you know, is where you sort of go, okay,
yeah, exactly, yeah. And that's where the problem lies. And again, like, I think I'm gonna get really, really pretentious with you now, Andy.
Yeah.
I think it was Francois Truffaut who said you can't make an anti-war film because no matter what you do, you are going to in some way glorify war. And I kind of agree with him. You know, and I've seen films that kind of really, you know, fight their battle for being an anti-war movie. But maybe even still, I'm like,
yeah. I mean, think about all the great war movies, Saving Private Ryan. It's you know, they let that German soldier go, don't they? Halfway through the film, you know, even after he's killed the medic. Well, they blame him for killing the medic, and then what happens at the end of the film? He gets killed by the coward, shall we say, the cowardly character, and everyone is uproaring. Yeah. It's not really what the film's trying to say. The film's trying to
USA all the way.
Yeah, the film's trying to say, you know, earn this life that you've been gifted, kind of thing. And war is terrible, and things happen, but all anyone remembers is
a kick-ass moment,
shooting that German in cold blood. And then. Okay, and you got Platoon as well. There's a lot going on in there.
I love Platoon. I absolutely adore Platoon.
And again, they all suffer, don't they? They all suffer in terror, and they end up, you know, killing each other to a degree. And yet still, towards the end of the film, we get uproarious sort of kind of thing. Like I've already said, Black Hawk Down. You know, try and play that as, you know, they made a mistake, and There's loads. We Were Soldiers is heavily guilty of glorification, and I like that film as well. And then even The Patriot. Again, two Mel Gibson movies there, and
on the list, Andy. It's on the list.
It is. I know his problems. I get it.
He's just become one of the Trump's Hollywood champions. Mel Gibson.
I'm a British man, and I love The Patriot. But I think, and all it is just anti-British. It's like we're terrible people, and all we did was terrible things. Yeah, okay, we did. Again, at the height of the empire.
Do you think this film has talking about, you know, it being? I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, I wouldn't say this is an anti-war movie, even though it does have anti-war sentiment. I think, especially towards the end. and throughout really, you've got all the different soldiers. What a lovely cast of like quality British talent as well, actors, all playing these wonderful. And so, like you were talking about culture, Andy, I was surprised how much Welsh culture was in this. Like almost the whole regiment is Welsh, which I was like bizarre. Like all this Welsh representation. I was like, you barely ever see it anymore. Really, you don't. Like unless it's like Michael Sheen doing something. You know, it's very rare you hear or see like Welsh voices. And I thought it was amazing, and they all have their own little quirks and characters. My favorite though has to be the very sweet farmer who just wants to spend time with that little sickly calf. He's my favorite. And he's just like, oh, I just want to go hold that calf. Oh, you'll just sit with that calf for a little while. You know, and you know, that's all he wanted. Like, because he was like, I was a farmer and it was all boring, and then he's like, I thought I needed some excitement, but now all I want to do is just sit around with the cows. And I was like, oh, poor man. And again, you've got the guy who can't button up his tunic, who, you know, he gets stabbed while his mate's trying to button him up, and then he's helping him because he's got a bad arm, and the other one's got a bad leg. And you've got all the injured guys as well, and you've got that. Yeah,
the film does really well, sort of building up these characters. A lot of war movies just, you know, you get a brief sense of the characters, and then we're fighting, and there's a lot going on. There's so many war movies that are like that. I mean, again, just to bring back Saving Private Ryan, it does the complete opposite, where we don't know anything about Tom Hanks' character. We don't know anything about him, to the point where there's jokes within the film where they're betting about, you know, what he is, whether he's a teacher or is, well, he becomes a teacher, doesn't he? But they're just joking about, well, maybe he does this line of work, maybe he does that line of work, maybe he's just been built from dead GIs, you know, which is just like a Frankenstein monster kind of thing. You know, they have all these jokes together. But this film, like, it gives us a great sense of each of the sort of major players, as it were. Even the coward who's pretending to be ill. You know, we end up rooting for him. You know, to save, you know, other people. And and
you've got Patrick McGee, one of your favourites from Clockwork Orange, as the doctor, as the surgeon.
Yeah, again, I always forget that it's him. Again, though, so briefly forgot it was him until he said the specific line, though. That intonation, it's him. Of course, it's him. Yes, I know it's him.
Yeah.
I've done it so many times where I've been like, it's him. Like I never remember this.
I've seen him. I've covered him a few times. We did the black. Me and Dan. D.L. Velasquez. We covered the Black Cat. Lucio Fulci's the Black Cat. He's in that. And then we did Tales of the Crypt, and he plays like a blind man in that as well. Always wonderful and creepy, and like a great voice.
Yeah, for anyone that's not sure who that is, we're referring to the guy in Clockwork Orange who's in the wheelchair, and Malcolm McDowell's character, you know, earlier on in the film, they raid the house and, you know, cause fucking chaos. And then later on down the film, he comes back and it's the guy who's in the wheelchair. He says, "Try the wine." It's just really exaggerated performance.
He knows who he is, doesn't he?
Scott Hodgson cannot stand me because I repeat it to him all the time. Try the wine. It's not bad. Or something like that.
Yeah. Because he knows who he is, because he hears him singing singing in the rain, doesn't he, in the shower, and he's like, "Oh, I know who you are now," and he's just fucking with him until he gets his revenge. Brilliant actor, brilliant. I think he's in Asylum as well, which is another kind of amicus horror film, which is it's a good little kind of portmanteau. But yeah, he's a great actor, and you'll see him in shit tons of stuff.
Well, again, the film in general has got just a ream of great actors, all different types of performances, all different types of characters. It's a really well performed movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like, if you're looking for a well-made film, like forget the the colonialism, the jingoism, whatever you want to talk about, or the racism, if you take all of that away, it's still a very well-made film. It's a very well-acted film. It's well edited, like the well choreographed. I was kind of a bit like, oh, these going to be like, oh, they bayonet them, but it's not going to be quite.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's not going to be.
There is a little bit
It's
of
a little
that.
bit. There's a little bit of a campiness to it. Yeah, there's a little bit. Of
you look at it and go, "That's 60 years ago."
Exactly. Yeah, but
No.
but for the time, I still think they cut away at the right points, and they, it's not perfect. Don't get me wrong, and and some of the injuries, and you're like, oh, some of the acting here and there when they get shot and stuff. It's not perfect by any stretch, and I think
this is how they perform films like this. You see it all the time, and like we say, westerns.
And I think it rained for like 3 weeks or 2 weeks before they could shoot anything. So what they did is they rehearsed. So those battle scenes they managed to do they managed to catch up in the film kind of timeline, because they were like, we've practiced this a million times. Let's go out and do it. Which, again, incredible. I watched a little documentary on YouTube. I think there's a Zulu channel on YouTube, I think.
Okay.
So it's like it's got all the clips from the film and the various other things and documentaries and things, but it's like, I think it's an official Zulu channel. And it's great. It's got, I think it might, the whole film is available on YouTube as well, if you want to watch it. That's where I found it. But it is for its time. There's a reason people still talk about it to this day. There's a reason why this debate is still going on, whether it's offensive, whether it's not. There has been like screenings cancelled. There was a charity screening a few years ago that was cancelled because they were afraid that, there were going to be complaints and things.
Yeah, it was a shame. It was a shame.
Yeah, again, I get it. I understand it. I get why there might be, why people might be uncomfortable with it and stuff. I completely understand it. But I think it's, again, one of those things where, have you actually watched it?
Have you actually done your research as well?
Have you actually watched it? Have you actually read that book? Before you ban it, have you read that book? It's the same thing for me. Again, I think the conversation we're having now is important because we're having it. Instead of going, oh, that might be a bit offensive, let's not watch it. Or that's got something in that's terrible, let's not watch it. No, because we're contextualizing it. I'd much rather have the conversation, say, why is this offensive? Why would other people find it offensive? And find the goodness, find the positive aspects of the film. Again, if you find it racist, I'm with you. I understand. I get it. I absolutely get it. Like I said, when I was researching this, I've been reading up on it because I wanted to be well prepared for this one. There are as many arguments for as there are against for that argument. Yeah. But if you take that discussion away, put it to one side, and if you just watch this as a classic English-British production, John Barry's on the bloody score, the James Bond, you can't get more English than that. Michael Caine is in it. It launched his career massively, shot up. He was nobody before this film, basically, and it made him a star basically overnight. And again, there is a reason why dads and sons and granddads bond over this film. There is something about it, inherently. And again, I get why it wouldn't be your cup of tea or why it wouldn't be your bag, but I get why people have talked about this film for so long. I get my granddad was a big fan. Despite whatever views he had, he loved this movie. He was a big fan. He talked about it a lot. I never sat down and watched it with him, but it was something he would talk about a lot, and he was a big fan of. And and again, he's interested in war movies. We said in our World War II month he had the badge in Enemy of the Gates. That was his badge on there, on the Ed Harris, I believe. And it was, I can see why he liked it. I can see basically just on a fundamental filmmaking, storytelling level, it works. It's gangbusters. It's great. It's very, very strong. Again, if it's not your bag, don't watch it. But if I think it's worth watching, there's unfortunately, there's even more offensive films out there that probably are on that banned movie list as well, like Birth of a Nation or Triumph of the Will, who were, promoting these horrible ideas of racial purity and, racism and xenophobia and all these other things. But due to those films being made, techniques that filmmakers still use today come from those films. So there is a positive. I know there's a lot of negatives, don't get me wrong, a lot of fucking negatives with those films, but there are some positives that come out of them as well.
Yeah.
Do they, counterbalance those negatives? I don't think they do.
No.
But
again, it's the argument, isn't it? Without war, you don't get technological advancement.
Exactly, yeah.
It's an awful thing.
Absolutely. But
jet aircraft came from the Second World War.
Yeah. Medical marvels.
Space flight came from the Second World War.
Yeah.
It's the conundrum of the existence, isn't it? Terrible things happen, and then we learn from those things, and we create new things and better things.
Exactly. And again, like there are things that will have been learned from this film, from filmmakers watching this film. There are, dozens, like this film makes various lists of like the 100 best films ever made, or best British films, or best war films, or best whatever, 100 best films starring Michael Caine. I don't know, but
has he done that?
Probably.
I
mean, he retired in the 80s and he's still making them. So I think he's properly retired now.
Yeah,
but
he's proper retired now.
Proper retired.
Christopher Nolan, no more.
No more. I'm done. I'm done.
Guarantee he pops up in the Odyssey for literally no reason at all.
Well, in this day and age, Andy, they'll probably use his AI, deep fake in something. I'm sure when his family will sell the rights for him being in like Batman 78 with Christian Bale. But yeah, it's an achievement. It's it's a big deal, and it's an important film, I think, for British culture, for things. But again, I can understand why it wouldn't be for certain people of certain cultures or ethnicities. I get if you're black and you don't want to see a load of black people massacred. I get it because there is a lot of dead black people in this film, and you're going to see it. And again, it's filmed during apartheid. So again, I understand if you don't want to watch it, but I think there are benefits to watching it. I personally, you and me, Andy. We'll get to my choice in a minute, but there might be some connective tissue there. But
okay.
But I'm up for watching anything myself. I will give it a go because I'm open to it. Certain people aren't, and that's fine. I get it, but I will literally give anything a go because you know what? I might find something positive in it. I might find something positive in Visitor Q. I might find something positive in Necromantic 2.
Grief.
I might, but I mean, there's something there, and that's my mission in life is to find some positive in mounds of shit. But luckily, I don't think Zulu is a mound of shit. I think it is. It is a strong film. It does have problems. It's not perfect, but what film is? But I can see why you like it. I can see why my granddad liked it. I can see why hundreds and thousands of people, again, very intelligent people defend it in articles and essays, and, people like it. I can see why people have fond memories of it as well, and in a nostalgic way. But I agree with you. I think the acting, the characters are fun. They're memorable. They're enjoyable. You feel something when they die. You feel something. Even Gary Bond, who's kind of the young soldier, the kind of a bit like the nervous one, and the only problem I have with this film, really, Andy, apart from all the racism, colonialism, and jingoism that we've already mentioned, is that fucking priest didn't die. Because that was the first thing I messaged Andy. I was like, but he better fucking die. Hate him.
I had the visual of him going away in that carriage as well. I was like, yeah, you're not going to get me.
I wanted my satisfaction.
But again, like in amongst that, when that carriage is going away with the priest and with his daughter, the warriors sort of come up, don't they, to try and sneak attack the carriage. And you see they look towards the king for the signal. And he does that signal, which essentially is no. And they so there is that, again, there's that mark of respect. They're not here to massacre innocents, which is counter to what British probably did at the time. So there is that modicum of respect. There's that modicum of we're here for a purpose, and that's what we're going to abide by.
They were there to build a bridge, weren't they? They were there to build a bridge.
Yeah, at the start of the film, there's one of the Zulu warriors is trying to drag her off the carriage, isn't he? When they're trying to leave, and the king goes no, and then another warrior kills him, to stop him from doing it, and then they allow them to leave peacefully.
Yeah, you're right.
There's a lot of depth to the characters without them having to say too much from the side of the
it's shown, like it's very much depicted, even without dialogue, which is good. You don't always need, like you said, you don't always need dialogue, but it is communicated through the film, through their actions of these warriors. Like you said, they go in and try and attack the woman, and the other one kills him because he's out of line. It's not respectful, so we don't act like that. That's not us. So we kill him because of that. And it's interesting that they're like, all these wounded, all these wounded are here. We've got to take them away. We've got to save them. And Shard's like, no, we need every last man. And you can see the desperation in Shard when the kind of cavalry comes in, and everyone's like, well, yes, and they're not actually soldiers, though. They're kind of farmers or something, and they're like, no, we did that battle where we got massacred. We're off, seeing a bit. Good luck. And again, that is that kind of 300-esque kind of assault on precinct 13 kind of thing, where it's like this is your last stand, your last port of call. Yeah, and I love that line from the big beardy guy who's walking around, the big tough one. And he's like, why us? Because we're here. Yeah. And again, that's getting away from the colonialism or jingoism, and it's that kind of men of honor kind of thing. This is our job, this is what we're here to do, and we're here to do it regardless of the consequences, regardless of the cost. But yeah, and again, it does work, and again, I think the battle scenes when that hut's on fire and they're coming in through the roof and everything, very, very intense, very effective. And and again, it works. Again, is it a bit dated? Sure, but it's, like you said, 60 years old, for fuck's sake. So there's going to be moments of that, but
absolutely.
And I like that. I like that Shard is building the bridge with his soldiers at the beginning, because he's like, Bromhead's like, oh yeah, all this kind of, and again they become closer and bond throughout the battle and various things. But I like how different they are as kind of soldiers. And he's like, he'll get his hands dirty when he needs to, and and they all have their own little quirks. Like they like singing, so they put the two singers together, and they have a choir and things like that. But that priest, I just hated him. He was just again religious zealot, a drunk, a coward. All the things I fucking hate. So I was like, you should die. You should definitely. And again, he's like, and he's trying to, and again, Gary Bond's character, the kind of nervous one, he's like, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're all gonna die. Why don't you run? The Lord says this. Don't raise your hand against your brother. Don't harm another man. And he's like, he's like, you be quiet now. You be quiet now, preacher. And eventually they send him away, and he's even. And again, he's just awful person, just awful. Yeah. Apart from the kind of him kind of making peace with the Zulus and communicating and getting that sort of stuff across, like he's one of those characters where you're like, I just want you to die. And he didn't die.
You get them in every film.
Yeah, I'm like
every single
war
movie.
Like war movies or slasher movies or horror movies. You're like, you're the one annoying character I really want to see fucking dead. Or like just the way they are, or just the way their attitude is, or they're a bully, and he was the one for me. I was like, all the other soldiers, I'm kind of like, I'm on board with you. I get it. I'm here to, no one's that fucking annoying. But he's like, and again, just all the things I hate in one character. And I was
shouting things at everyone and putting them off, and
just belligerent old fucking drunk man who's like religious. He's like, God says this, I'm ordained. Good for fucking you. Piss
belligerent old drunk. Everything that I will one day become.
I don't think you'll be as bad as that, Andy. But yeah, I had to picture at the end of the film. I was like, maybe there's a post credits where his carriage just like gets just loads of spears thrown through it, or they stop it and then they like stab him in the carriage or something, or he tries to offer them a drink or something. I don't know. I was just like, or just like maybe some of those other soldiers come across him and like, you're a coward. shoot him dead. But yeah, unfortunately, my satisfaction was never satiated with his death.
And I think that is where we'll leave this discussion. It seems like a solid place to leave the discussion there, I think.
Absolutely.
And there we go. That is Zulu sharing the silver screen.
Well, thank you for sharing.
No, my pleasure. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did.
I've enjoyed it a great many years, and it was shared to me by my nan, who was a history teacher, and she loved it. You know, again, I remember her telling me that it's not entirely not entirely accurate, but it's important, and I believe she showed
neither was Gladiator, but neither was Braveheart. But again, I can understand with this where the accuracy is problematic as opposed to Gladiator or Braveheart. I can understand why the revisionist history and the recontextualizing of that fact could be upsetting and problematic to other people. So I do appreciate that. But I think it's worth watching. I think it's a good film. I think
it is.
Make your own mind up. We're not going to say something's racist and it stopped being racist. But I appreciate people's opinions. I'd like to hear other people's opinions. If you do think it's racist, let us know. Or I think it's pro-colonialism, pro-imperialism, it's jingoist, let us know in the comments. I'd really like to start a kind of proper discussion because I am genuinely interested because all the stuff I've read, there's good arguments on either side, I think, for both points. And again, I'm not really sure where I stand on it yet. Just sitting on the fence again, Dan. Just sitting on the fence as per usual.
So many fences to sit on.
Again, but I can genuinely in either perspective, I can see what either side is arguing for and against in regards to this.
Absolutely.
But no, I enjoyed watching it. I think it was a good discussion in general between ourselves and again, I think the discussions should continue because I think it always will. I don't think there will be an answer for this film whether or not you can, no one's going to go right. The final decision, they hit the gavel and that's it. It's racist or it's not racist. I think this discussion will go on, but I think it's important to contextualize it with modern day and modern eyes and modern audiences. But again, I understand where the problematic aspects would come from. Right.
Where we go?
What are we doing?
Yes. So obviously this particular discussion is going to be appearing on my channel, and the way this show works is that I share with Dan a particular film that I would like to watch. I shared with him Zulu, and therefore it appears on my channel. And what happens next is our good friend Mr. Spider-Dan is going to reveal what film he's going to share with me, and then that's going to appear on his podcast. So lay it upon me. What have we got coming up next? What are you subjecting me to this time? You subjected me to some interesting stuff. I mean, obviously, I remembered of Unknown Origin, which I greatly enjoyed.
You recalled that.
But there's always an air of trepidation or worry.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's always a realm of possibility, and what could it be? What could the man of many extremes go to this time? So, talking about, we didn't do something at Christmas, and there was a poll that was voted upon, and Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence won.
Yeah.
There was the other film that did not win, which I'm interested in doing. Now, I'm interested in doing it because it shares a cast member with this film, which kind of made me think, oh, yeah. So Gary Bond, that nervous soldier, that very young, handsome soldier, he only did three films in his lifetime, and we're going to do the second one he did. And also, the reason I picked this was because our good friends, Scott and Lucy, are finally moving to the outback, to Australia.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So I'm going to pick, and again, I'm going to warn you now, Andy. Again, speaking of films that are banned and speaking of things that are problematic, this film does feature some animal cruelty. So prepare yourself for this, Andy. I know you'll watch it. Because
I'll watch it.
You'll watch it. But just if anybody else is going to watch along, I think it is available on YouTube. It is a film starring Gary Bond again,
Yeah.
and starring Donald Pleasance, and it is called Wait in Fright. It is set around the Christmas holidays. So it was on our little poll for Christmas, but again, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence won. And it is about an English teacher who's on his winter holidays, and he goes into the outback, and it's a existential nightmare, basically, of living in Australia and dealing with having no money and no resources and gambling addiction and drinking addictions, alcohol addictions. It is not a horror
life in general.
pretty much. But it's what Lucy and Scott are going into. So I wanted to prepare them.
An existential nightmare.
An existential nightmare full of creepy crawlies and beasties. This film was actually lost as well for a very long time. It did not do very well in Australia, but it was found again and has given it a second life, basically. It's a big favourite of Martin Scorsese and many other. Nick Cave's a big fan as well. And it is kind of based on a novel as well. So it's not a horror film. Like, I watched it on Shudder, which is a horror, streaming service, and it's called Wake in Fright. I think it's based on a curse, which is may you dream of the devil and you wake in fright, which is like an old curse people would put on people. Or just say, like, oh, fuck you. That sort of say.
About night's sleep. There you go.
But yeah, so it's an interesting one. It's probably not anything like we've covered yet.
That's interesting.
I'm still not even sure how I feel about it. I've only watched it once, so I wanted to kind of revisit it. And again, all these kind of things kind of came up, and I thought, it is technically an alternativity story, so we could have done it for Christmas, but let's do it now, because it is in the blazing dry heat of Australia and the Australian hour.
Well, as always, I'd never heard of this film, so that's interesting.
It'll be something. It'll be an experience for you. But it was called Outback as well in certain territories. It was just called Outback. It's interesting. It's very different. Very, very different. Very But I think you might dig it though. I think you might dig it. So don't worry. It's not on the. It's not. I couldn't do another Turkish Star Wars for you, Andy. I had to
good God, no.
I had to kind of. We got to vary it up a little bit. I'm not. I'm not the Sultan of shit as I've been called prior. I've got to have some quality stuff in there. So but there's definitely something to it. So I'm looking forward to revisiting it, and I think it's topical and again links into a lot of things I was just talking about. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So Wait in Fright from 1971, I want to say.
Lovely.
So we'll do that. A lovely, lovely early Ozploitation film. I love my Ozploitation. So we're going for new wave, probably more new wave Aussie, to be honest. But it's it verges into that kind of Ozploitation territory.
Very nice. Well, I think we can draw this one to a close. Before we do, where can the lovely people of YouTube find your shenanigans, Mr. Brazier?
Well, you can find me on Spider Down at the Secret Boars. I've done a lot of collaborations with Andy in the past. Also, speaking of collaborations, the director of Wake in Fright did First Blood, which we covered a while back on your channel. So Canadian in the outback. I don't know why. Maybe he was part of the McCarthy thing as well. They're like, boot him out. He's a communist. Boot him out. Get him out. Go to Australia. You can go and find. I put all the collaborations in a list on my channel. All the sharing. The silver screens are on there, and on a playlist, which I'll add this to as well. All the stuff is there. You can find me on all the podcast platforms as well. I'm available there. Doing a few more videos this year than normal. So if you want to watch more videos of my handsome face with my new lighting that I've just bought, because the other lighting decided not to work anymore. So it was that bloody mechanical arm. I think you've got the same lighting, and that mechanical arm just failed me, and I was just it just.
Mine's been perfectly fine.
Like it just collapsed, and I couldn't get it back up. I closed it for a podcast because I was sat across from somebody, and then I put it back up, and it was like, no, just going to collapse every 2 seconds. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the springs or the turn things, the turn keys, but just doesn't fucking work. So I bought these little ones on like these little cube ones, these little rectangle ones on a little plastic stand.
Okay.
They're doing pretty well. They're kind of light it as just as good as the other thing. So I'll take it. And I've got 2 of them now. So if one goes, I've got another one.
Yeah, well, there you go then.
There we go.
Every cloud has a
Yeah.
silver lining.
Yeah, go and check out the Page of Apocalypse new podcast YouTube channel. It's a series of covering the Age of Apocalypse, the X-Men comic book. We've just done Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and then this Sunday I'm recording Van Helsing with Sarah Caine, which will be a fun podcast, I think, to with a fun film.
Me upsetting people with my opinions again.
you upset people? Never. I'm sure you'll be well expected to have strong feelings. You have strong feelings about everything, Andy. You can't sugarcoat these things.
I know. It seems to be one way or the other, doesn't it?
Yeah. Don't worry about it. You know, I'm kind of middle of the road, or I'm very positive, middle of the road, or I fucking despise things. I don't know. Yeah. Whatever extreme it is. But
it's what happens when you get old. You can't be asked for middling shit anymore.
No, exactly.
Is it good? Yeah. Is it shit? Yes, it is.
I'm planning on seeing Captain America: Brave New World tomorrow. So
I'm just gonna get into that myself then. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's not middling shit. The reviews are not great on the whole, but there's a few positive ones out there. So
I haven't looked at it myself. But I was informed of sort of mid reviews.
Yes.
Our good friend Nathan Richard Smith. But
I don't think they're necessarily bad reviews, but they're not great either. I think it's like, this is good, but could have been a lot better, I think. Or it's okay, it'll do, or it's trying to recapture the other Marvel film. So whatever it is. But I'm hopeful. I've got positive mindset. I'm going in. I'm going to take it at face value and see what I like about it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Whereas me, I'm a little bit ambivalent about it. But yes, I too, by the time this comes out, I think I probably would have already watched it. Whether I've got the review out for it or not, I'm not entirely sure at this point. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But yes, there will be a Captain America Brave New World review coming from yours truly. And with regards Mr. Spider-Dan's channel, you can find the links down below. Obviously, go and check him out. Go and subscribe to his channel. And obviously, for more reviews and videos akin to this, give this video a like. Comment below your thoughts on Zulu. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? What's your opinion on sort of everything that we've talked about? There's things we've missed. We didn't really delve in too much into, who makes it out of the film. There's a lot of characters that come and go in the film. So, sound off with your thoughts and opinions on the film below. And like I said, if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews like this. Of course, there'll be more reviews coming up. And the next video, the next discussion, Waking Fright, will be on Mr. Spider-Dan's channel on his output. So go and check out his stuff. Get it on your list. And we will see you on the next Sharing the Silver Screen. Spider-Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure as always.
As always.
Another great discussion. So I look forward to Waking Fright, and we'll be checking that out very, very soon. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye.